Hello, my constellation of shining, shooting, seeking stars. I'm so grateful you're here. This is Starchaeology Tarot, my channel. I am Desi. I will be your Starchaeologist for this June 2022 reading for Leo. This is good for Leo, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. And as always, my intention is to deliver messages to you from your guides, from your angels and archangels, straight from spirit, straight from source energy, that will help you fulfill your absolute highest potential this month. If you have an additional intention to set or a question to ask, please take this time now to do that as I shuffle and tune in with spirit. What are the messages for Leo, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus for June? These cards are a bit tricky to shuffle. They're very heavy. Okay, what are the messages for Leo? Oh, the devil. The devil in reverse, Leo. Love that. Love to see that. What else for Leo, Spirit? What else for Leo? Almost. What else for Leo? What other messages are for Leo? Okay. Those really flew out. Okay, I'm not sure if this is... Okay, I think this was tough because this was on its side. I'm going to interpret that both ways, as if that's reversed, as if that energy was blocked, and also as if it's not blocked. It's in the obstacle. It's in an obstacle position. So, really, I think the messages are going to be similar regardless. But we have the Devil in reverse, the Six of Swords, and the Three of Swords in reverse. Leo, you have such an opportunity this month to free yourself from negative patterns. I see some of you emerging in June from old shells of yourself, almost like you are being reborn in June, and you're waking up and you're seeing the ways in which you were chained before, and you didn't even know that you were chained. You thought you were free, but you're seeing now the ways in which you were not. It's alarming. I think for some of you, it's there's this feeling of like, get me out of here. I'm so happy to be free now. I'm so happy to be awake. But then there's also this sadness and this heartbreak that goes with it. Maybe it's over wasting time, spending as much time as you did not awake, asleep, or even just like facing the truth of this situation is painful. You're happy you faced it, but sometimes the truth can be painful, especially because our mind tends to make assumptions based on assumptions about what that means for us. Like, we can wake up and realize, like, oh, I see now, I understand how I was captive before, and I understand that now, and yet our mind will build on that, a really positive thing, a positive change in our lives. Our mind will find a way to see the shadow side of that always, like making assumptions about the veracity, the authenticity of that situation, of the people involved, not, having issues of trust maybe, being abusive towards ourselves. Like, why did I do that? Why did how could I have been blind? There are a lot of ways to get really caught up in feelings that are sad, remorseful, guilty, shameful when we find enlightenment. And that's all coming from the ego, Leo. You don't have to choose to engage in those feelings. If you do have those feelings, that's also completely normal, because you have an ego. You are human. But just know that your divine self is leading you out of that, and your divine self is giving you this opportunity to simply to see, to observe, and to make a different choice. Your divine self is not asking you to be remorseful, or to feel ashamed, or to feel guilty, or to beat yourself up, or to beat up someone else. Like, that doesn't have to be involved in this awakening. But it is a true awakening. I mean, I see some of you pushing back against a captor, whether it was your own mind or it was someone in your life who was limiting you in some way, and maybe doing it in a manipulative way. It could, for some of you, it's a job situation. It's like, I was being taken advantage of in this workplace, and my time was unappreciated, and I couldn't really see the ways in which I was bound because my loyalty blinded me. So yeah, many of you are really awakening this June. I think a lot of you, I want to say this too, it's about recognizing your own negative patterns that you have been in, and really seeing the error of your own ways, which again is not reason for self-punishment. It should be the most encouraging thing to know that you have the awareness to see in yourself negative patterns that you have engaged in. To then step outside of those patterns and be able to see them for what they are is a miracle. There are people who never become aware of their own negative patterns. You, Leo, you're starting to reflect on them, and it's, again, painful to reflect on those negative patterns. That is not reason not to do it. The biggest challenge, Leo, of facing these negative patterns that you've been involved in, and what you have been maybe slave to in different areas of your life, what devils you have been serving in your life. The biggest challenge to breaking free from those devils, from those negative patterns, is the impulse to leave. There is going to be a part of you in June, for some of you, where this awakening makes you want to just kind of throw everything away and start new. It's going to make you be like, I just got to get away from my life. It's a real flight response. If you're looking at, if you know anything about the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, if you're not familiar with that, I highly recommend looking into the work of the holistic psychologist. It's her handle on Instagram. She talks a lot about the fawn response, which is kind of a glossed over fourth response, which many of you may be guilty of. It's a kind of a people-pleasing response in times of trauma and stress. But the real response that's coming up here that is going to be an obstacle to you freeing yourself this month is this desire to leave. It is a kind of flight response that you have to actively pause and question and work through, because that's an anxiety response. That's a survival response that is not necessarily working for your best good. Best good. It's not necessarily working with your best in mind. Your best good. It's a self-protective mechanism, and sometimes those gut responses, the fight or flight, freeze or fawn are just survival mechanisms that are instinctual. They aren't necessarily rational. They're usually conditioned, something that's a conditioned response in us that's triggered, and they often don't lead us to either the things that we actually want, or to the places that we're trying to grow to. They don't lead us to the better versions of ourselves. And it's really when we're up against that instinct and impulse, the best thing we can do is not engage in that, but really pause, really get quiet, and question why we're having that instinctual response. But yeah, there's a real desire for some of you to flee. Now, others of you, it's different. For others of you, the challenge in this awakening is actually feeling like you haven't the enlightenment of this devil reverse. Like you've woken up, but you feel like you're not able to transition forward to a more peaceful place. You're not able to move forward without taking the weight of all this pain with you. Six of Swords is often about a silent transition. It's like taking all of this pain, all of these swords, words, promises, decisions, thoughts that have been painful for us, that have maybe they came from ourselves, maybe they came from others, but before we're able to make this quiet boat ride transition, these swords weighed down this boat so much that it wouldn't float, it would sink. This is about a transition that doesn't necessarily look any different. It isn't a transition that looks different on the outside. This is a Swords card. This isn't a Pentacles transition. This isn't a Wands transition where we're seeing action in front of our eyes. This is internal. This is about how we think, how we speak, what we say, how we show up in our words and beliefs to ourselves and to other people. And I see you maybe struggling, knowing what you know, having this kind of awakening of like, what have I been serving? I've been serving my shadow in many ways. Or maybe I've been serving someone else's shadow. But whatever it is, I've been bound to this. Now I'm awake to this. Now I'm waking up. And it's that awareness that leads to my liberation. But something has to then shift inside me. Something has to shift in how I think. That's why I think a big part of this is like about beliefs, Leo. I think a big part of this is about, we have two Swords cards here. I think a lot of this is about beliefs and how your thoughts affect your feelings, or the thoughts that you conclude from feelings that you have, and questioning those thoughts, really, really pushing yourself to be critical of your own thoughts. Realize, like, I don't have to believe every thought that I think. How many of those thoughts have been coming from my shadow self trying to keep me small? How many of those thoughts that I subscribe to keep me from growing on the inside, keep me from changing on the inside as a person, becoming that better version of myself? The Six of Swords transition is one that happens when all of those old beliefs that we've had no longer weigh us down, no longer hold us back. They no longer limit us. They don't sink the boat. We can't necessarily erase them because they may be a part of who we are, but we can put way less value in them so that our boat can still float and we're able to move to a different place internally and mentally. Definitely mentally, because this is swords, this is air, this is thoughts, beliefs, decisions that we're making. So the big message here is that you might feel liberated. You might have this awakening. You might have access to all of this knowledge, but you might not. You might be struggling to actually use it to change the way that you think, to change the way that you speak, to change the words that you speak to yourself, the words you speak to others, the thoughts that you act on, and the thoughts that you say no thank you to. What is the advice there? The advice lies in this Three of Swords reversed. Another Swords card here. It's about, in order to really allow yourself to surrender to this kind of internal transition, surrender to a mental transition, that you need to actually change how you think based on what you now know, your newfound awareness. This is about looking at the thoughts that you had maybe before that were weighing down your boat and seeing how they were linked to past pain, how they were linked to past betrayal, whether it was betrayal from others or betrayal of yourself, betrayal of the self. Really examining where those thoughts came from and why they were linked to negative feelings for you. And instead of living in this state, in this Three of Swords state of heartbreak, because many of these thoughts, Leo, could be rooted in heartbreak for you, could be rooted in pain. And maybe that's something you don't even realize, or you don't even connect really, because you never question those thoughts. Maybe it's fear of heartbreak, fear of pain, and you're just trying to avoid pain at all costs. Whatever it is, this is about turning that kind of pain, turning that kind of heartbreak on its head. Whereas Three of Swords upright is heartbreak, I see this as an unbreaking of your own heart. I see this as really getting curious about the connection between your thoughts and your feelings, and understanding maybe how feelings have not served you best when choosing what thoughts you'll wear each day, what beliefs you will pin on your lapel. I'm hearing, if any of you are familiar with the phrase feelings are not facts. You know, how many feelings did you take on that were not necessarily, maybe that were serving your shadow? Feelings that came from your shadow, that came from fear. How many of those feelings did you allow to inform your belief systems, inform your thoughts about yourself and your life? Because that's where your biggest help will be. If you are struggling to surrender to this transition, this inner transition, yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about this still in both those positions, either reversed or upright. If you're struggling to change, to leave this, then the biggest help would be looking at the connection between your thoughts and your feelings, and seeing maybe how they have misinformed each other, how they have worked together, collaborated to serve your greatest fears, to keep you bound by your greatest fears, to serve a negative story that keeps you small, that keeps you from being able to transform your beliefs and thoughts so that you become lighter and you're able to progress down the river of your life. I think also another interpretation, this is what was hitting me a little bit ago, is seeing this, if this had been reversed for some of you, you know, it came out kind of horizontal and I'm still thinking about it. I see that for some of you, the biggest change is not letting this awakening, this awareness, not letting that change the inner parts of you that you love, that are authentic for you. I think there's something about waking up, especially to devil energy, waking up to your shadow or waking up to someone else's shadow, that can be so disorienting and scary. That it's like this impulse to just that just leads you to like, I just want to get out. I want to change everything. You know, everything that I thought was true is not. It's like just throwing out the whole baby with the bathwater. It's like really leading you to maybe very binary thinking. And for some of you, so the struggle is actually staying where you need to stay. You know, leaving the things that you know are coming from a dark place, moving away from the things that, from the actions or decisions that you were making out of fear, but still being committed to the things that are rooted in love, staying where you need to stay, not letting this awareness change the parts of you that are so light, that are aligned, that are on course, that are expanding, that are growing, the parts of you where your swords are light. You know, don't make all the swords heavy. Don't make some swords heavy or some swords lighter and then let others be, you know, new ones sink the boat. Don't create new thoughts and belief systems that are going to sink your boat and hold you back. Like, don't become jaded by this awakening that you have, this enlightenment that you have. So the struggle is staying in the things that are right to stay in. And I guess this is similar to what I was saying about like flight, like, you know, avoiding the impulse to fly away. But there was something about that hit me just in that in this alternative way to say that. So yeah, I hope that was clear. There's a lot of, this is a complicated one, I think. So hopefully there was something in there that was resonant. But as long, Leo, as you're able to really examine this connection and dig deep into pain, I see a lot of you as, because this is reversed, it's like this is saying, you know, you have had heartbreak, you've had pain and sorrow, and you don't really get curious about it. It's not something that you are generally curious about. And this is a time where that might not serve you. And maybe it hasn't been serving you. Maybe that has been serving your shadow. Maybe that has been serving past versions of you that you're trapped in, that you're just reliving like Groundhog Day, unable to grow into this next version of yourself. Pain is important because it's transformative. Heartbreak is important because it's transformative. And it can be transformative in either direction. It can make us more expansive, it can make us more wise, or it can make us more limited. It can make us more fearful. It can make us smaller. We have a choice every time. But I see this being reversed. It's almost like you haven't been making a choice, Leo. You've been brushing that under the rug instead of facing it, getting curious about it, and doing the work on it. And then I do want to say, others, if that's not all of you, some of you are very used to doing the work on it, but that makes me then wonder, well, what is the thing that maybe you've done the least work on? What's the thing maybe that you have glossed over, or the one thing that you have pushed under the rug, or thought, oh, that pain is nothing, you know, I don't care about that. That heartbreak, that's nothing. that betrayal, that fear that I have, oh, it's just a stupid fear, and like you're judging your own fear. Are there any areas like that where maybe they deserve a second look, maybe they deserve a deeper look, and can you see how that may be related and important to you liberating yourself from this devil energy, from this negative pattern that you're in? This is so powerful, Leo. I'm like, this is one of the most interesting spreads, I think, of the month. I would love to hear how this looks specifically for you in your life. So if you feel called to, please comment below. Opening our hearts to each other is one of the most loving and supportive things that we can do in a community, even a community of strangers. There's nothing more powerful than hearing someone else's pain or hearing someone else's hope. Both have different effects in how we are able to approach our own problems, different positive effects in how we are able to approach and tackle our own problems, and our own introspection, our own journeys. We always, always, always are learning from each other. So if you feel called to share, please, please share. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please take a moment to do that. I would be so grateful. And if you want to support this work and help me do more of it to help you better, check out my link to my Patreon below. You can support this work for as little as $3 a month. There's also higher tiers with a lot of extra exclusive bonuses and goodies, including monthly one-on-one readings with me at a highly discounted rate. So please check that out. I am so grateful for you, Leo. I love you very much. If you still have questions, check out the readings for your other placements. Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus are the big ones. I'm so grateful for you. Thanks for being here again, and I'll see you next time.